Josh, we are here joined live. Not so live.
Our first live podcast.
We promised to edit them. In what do we mean is in situation.
Yes.
In situation with Elise and Sammi from Beretta Australia. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Elise?
Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for having us because we're at your place on these beautiful leather couches that we some of us are enjoying. There's some of us who are a little bit taller think they're fine, and some of us who are a little bit shorter think they're
struggling over here.
Struggling to reach the ground there, Josh.
Yeah. I have noticed that we have the short ones on this side and the tall ones on that side. I don't know if that was...
We're getting into some segregation here.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Now, this is your first podcast to be involved with, and you're both very nervous, so I appreciate you coming up with the guts to sit here and put up with us asking you a couple of questions. But you're both marketing professionals, from what I understand.
Yeah, sometimes we're professional. Sometimes we're,
Just do that. You mind telling us a little bit about your respective roles within Beretta?
Yeah, no problem. So I've been the marketing manager here for coming up on 2 years next month. With a varied background in other industries. So This is my first foray into this industry.
So when you say industries in terms of still marketing, but in other lines of it.
Yeah, automotive, hardware, food, textiles, a very varied industry background. And then being from a family that I was around guns when the role came up here, I thought, this sounds like a good opportunity for me.
Something different.
So I moved over here and it'll be 2 years in July.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome.
There you go. Elise, what about you?
I came not long after Sammi in August and I had moved down from Cairns where I was working in tourism marketing.
Yep.
And then sort of we got into the middle of COVID. Yeah.
In Melbourne. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I moved down literally just before COVID started. But yeah, I saw the job come up and I've not probably had as extensive background with shooting as Sammi has, but growing up in sort of regional southeast Queensland, definitely a few shots have been fired here and there, like out on the farm or out on the range. So I'm primarily in the social media space, also looking after the communications with our B2B and B2C, and have sort of more, now that COVID sort of, we're sort of leaning out of it a bit.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
We're on the way out.
Yeah, starting to look more into the event side of things, which is super scary but very interesting at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and look, in amongst with the events and everything, Elise is also doing a lot with our sponsored shooters, which is great across all the disciplines.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
That's ramping up a fair bit now.
Very good. And so that's so Beretta, I guess, is a global company, but this is the Australian business, Australian company.
Yeah.
And then deals with all sorts of firearms and accessories, both military, civilian, law enforcement.
So under our Beretta Australia banner in Australia, we have about 35 other brands across, rifles, accessories, knives, optics. It's quite varied. And then we also have our own workshop here where we do a lot of the custom work as well as the repairs and everything that goes on.
Yeah. So it's quite, I mean, we often talk about small business on our podcast. This is quite a different end of the scale in terms of where we normally sit, but it's very interesting to see what can be done with a bigger organisation. One thing I was going to ask you about, with 35 brands, how do you know what to spend your time on?
Oh, it has its challenges.
Wow.
And it's a big, toss up where, obviously some of our bigger brands like the Ticker and the Sako and the Beretta, you want to spend more time and money on them. But then you can't lose focus on the other brands that need that support a little bit more. And that's where we run into things. So we've got Victrix and Frankie and those brands, which they have their place and they need that promotion. They're not as big in our market as they are globally. So we need to focus a little bit more on them and rely on the name of Beretta to sell Beretta.
Yeah, okay. Sort of resting on the branding and the within the shooting community, Beretta is an extremely well-known name.
Yes.
And needs limited. It's the Coke or the McDonald's of the shooting community for a lot of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need a lot of branding, but you also can't let it drop.
No, I think a lot of people that sit at that number one position just get very comfortable there, and then before they know it, something else pops up and they're like, wait, that was our spot. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa, in your role, social media, which is the area that we spend our time doing, and that's how I know that Josh has particularly gotten to know both of you through you sharing posts that we've worked on and such. One of the challenges in our industry is paid promotion is virtually non-existent. Is there any elements you do with advertising in socials?
There's not really a lot that we can do, and I think when I started in the role, it was something that I had struggled with coming from a background where, there was not an endless pool of money, but we certainly had a bit more, had a little bit more of a helping hand from using sort of sponsored posts. So what I decided to do in this role was purely work on my engagement, no posting and ghosting, as they say, which, has its own challenges because really analysing that perfect posting time is obviously sort of into the evening or early mornings, jumping on there, engaging. And I think when I first started, people would say to me, this is so weird, like Beretta Australia talks to us. And I'm like, it's not weird. I was like, I've always seen it, we've got such a loyal fan base and they take the time to jump on there and leave a comment, mostly good. It doesn't hurt to sort of interact with them, and that's how you build relationships and how you find out more about, I guess, what's happening in our market, more about what people want to see, what they want to hear about. So I've just tried to really approach it from a more sort of organic and authentic. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's doing okay.
It is. Look, our socials have progressed vastly since Elise came on board.
Oh, congratulations, Elise. Well done. It's good to hear.
It's also seeing full circle. We're doing a collaboration at the moment with a company called Dog and Gun and our brand Frankie.
Yep.
And
that's a coffee brand, isn't it?
It is a coffee. Yep,
good branding. I knew what it was.
I've been wanting to try some of that.
It is good coffee. Let me just say that.
I may have some in my office.
I know where we're going after this.
And someone posted on Facebook that they were going to buy this coffee purely on the relationship that they had with Beretta Australia, which was through Elise. Elise reaching out to sponsor them in a fundraising event for cancer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And just to see that come around, and that all happens via socials. So for me, that type of advertising speaks volumes more than, just seeing a little picture pop up on your screen.
I think it's got so much value to it doing that sort of thing because there's a goodwill element and you're actually making a difference and actually benefiting someone with the fundraiser side of things. But that's a good news story as well, and that's something you can in 12 months' time as well. You can sort of remember when we did this and what should we do next? That sort of it builds conversations, builds engagement. So it's a good long-term strategy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And they had the inaugural event, I think, not last year or the year before. So it's a new event. So, hopefully it will just grow. They'll sort of pick a different charity each year and we can just sort of see where it goes from there. But also, ultimately, it might give some other clubs the confidence to perhaps speak up or, put together their proposals and come to us with some ideas, hopefully about how we can work together and not clubs as such, but that's sort of how the Dog and Gun coffee collaboration came to be. That all started when I just clicked the follow button and I got a message back straight away from Sean and he was like, thank you for following me. Can I send you some coffee? And that's pretty much how that relationship really got started with literally one click of a follow button. Yeah.
Awesome.
Have you had some interesting responses to Beretta following in either individuals or organisations or whatever? Have you had any people like, oh my gosh, Beretta's following me. This is the best day of my life?
Yeah, they do actually. It's and as I said before, when you comment on them, they really think, oh, this is weird. It's such a big brand. Someone there is taking the time to actually respond to me, to listen to what I'm saying. And, a lot of people, they might be like, I own extensive collection, and you're like, can you tell me more about it? What do you have? And I think we're quite good also with not rewarding, but it's a good opportunity to say, would you like some barrel stickers? How can we send you something to thank you for your loyalty for the brand. And it doesn't have to be anything over the top. It can just be a simple sticker, keyring, and this is where Sammy's coming in on the marketing side of things, getting us some new and interesting
merchandise.
Working on some merch. Yeah, look, it is it's extremely hard coming into this industry. The traditional advertising methods they're not there. The old school print ads, great. They are very solid in our market.
So they work well for this market?
They do. We know that people see them, but as that traditional print side of things goes, it's really hard to gauge who's looking at your ads and who is purchasing from those ads. One good thing COVID did bring about was everybody is now familiar with a QR code. There was a stage when we thought that the QR codes just were never going to be a thing. Well, now that everyone knows how to use them, we can use them in magazines to link us back to digital and gain data on where our attention's coming from. But finding alternate advertising has been extremely difficult. We do have a couple of billboards up, depending on the state. The ones in Victoria that we have currently, there's no firearms on them whatsoever.
Yes.
However, in Queensland, when we launched the Lupo, we were actually able to get an image of the Lupo up on that ad.
Yeah, wow.
So it's
on billboards.
Yeah, on billboards. Granted, that was Queensland, and I think they do treat it differently a little bit up there.
Yep.
But it's a struggle. Google will block anything with a gun. There are companies that just will refuse to work with you. Even if you're not going to put a gun in the advertisement, the fact that we are in that industry, they're like, sorry.
Yeah, just shy right away from it.
Yeah, so that has been a real challenge moving into here.
Okay.
I'm looking at breaking out into, the four-wheel drive market. There are such good synergies between us and four-wheel drivers, and I think 95% of gun owners own a four-wheel drive. It's a fantastic market. But again, there's that, it's guns.
Yes.
People that use them don't want to be seen using them. So,
Absolutely.
it's challenging.
It is challenging. And so from a socials point of view, Instagram, Facebook, they the main two, the only two? Do you do anything else outside of that? We mentioned LinkedIn before.
Yeah, we did.
Chatting, yeah.
So definitely the flagship channels, definitely Instagram and Facebook for us. We are growing on LinkedIn, which has been positive to see. We had some sponsored shooters compete at the Olympics, and on their return, we were permitted to make a very brief post congratulating them, and it just went absolutely insane.
Yeah, wow.
Which I think is just a testament to, you celebrate your wins. It's you reward your sportsmen and women when they're performing well. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to put up a photo and to say, brilliant job well done. Yep. Thank you so much for representing Australia. Do you know, it's just, and that was really rewarding. It's a little bit of a tough space, but we're sort of trying to move into content that is very focused on Beretta Australia. Yeah. And, I think a lot of people maybe want to see who's behind the scenes.
Yes, I was going to ask that. Actually.
A lot of people think I'm a man. I don't know why.
Because it's Beretta and it's guns, and there's no females that work in the gun industry.
Can you pixelate my face?
It's done.
It's done. Edit it in.
All blacked out.
Let's say, Snapchat filter, you can be a man instantly.
Yeah, that's true. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird. And then, because also the other part of social media is can be quite customer service based, because no one sort of wants to pick up the phone, or they don't know where to go, or, and it's easy just in this day and age, and everyone's just send someone, just a message or contact us. And you also start like a lot of different relationships that way as well. You go with them on their journey, and, and then they might decide to buy a shotgun, and then they're so excited and they message back and they tell you all about it and send you 40 photos, which is amazing, honestly, that someone's taking the time to do that.
Elise gets the good and the bad, because she gets that side of it, but then she also gets the, where is this? What's happened? This has gone wrong. Fix it for me. And Elise's like, well, just give me a second. I'll reply and sort that out for you. So I think socials have become just an absolute beast in itself for the business, you know, not just from that advertising perspective, but, you know, keeping that loyalty there, actually communicating with our consumers and keeping them as happy as we can, but also breaking the mold a little bit around what Beretta Australia is and what we do. You know, we have multiple brands and we're not old stick in the muds. You know, we do have a bit of fun, and I think that's slowly starting to come out with our socials now, and even some of the comments that happen, you know, there's heated debates on our site and everyone kind of chips in there, and it's actually starting to build its own following.
Engagement.
Yeah, I know.
It's great. It's just building that community base.
Yeah. Even if it's controversial, I'm like, I'll just leave this here and see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And
monitor it getting nasty, but aside from that, let them talk.
Generally, it sort of resolves itself fairly well.
Yeah.
We do get some funny comments sometimes, which give me a bit of a giggle. But yeah, it's all, I mean, and it's no different to probably any other industry, I guess. There's always going to be, you know.
You have your nuances and your discussions and your debates and points of difference.
So you can't scroll, got to troll.
Yes.
I've not heard that one before.
Well,
I feel like that should be a sticker. We need that somewhere.
Some people just can't help themselves, and that's okay. Yeah. You know, as long as we're respectful of everyone else, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But
That's great.
Yeah.
You've said a couple of times about getting photos sent through and talking about people, I've got this collection and this. Do you do much with user-generated content where people send you that and then being able to put that out there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first started, and we were talking about this a little earlier, and I was like, I can do this, and then I was like, can I do this? And then it sort of took a lot of time for me to, number one, sort of familiarise myself with who's who in the zoo, identifying, you know, official Beretta tribe members, and just trying to figure out how it all sort of clicked in together.
Yes.
But yeah, user-generated content for me is key. We do some advertising content, which is great. And recently, earlier this year, we did a photo shoot where we made some content, which I've not posted yet. But as we sort of ease into that space, I guess we'll be making more focused content for the company, but you can't get better than user-generated content.
Yeah.
It's just like they're using your brand, they're out in nature. They're the ones that are connecting. It's all about the lifestyle, you know, with a beautiful rifle or a shotgun sort of there. So, yeah, user-generated content for me is key.
So important.
That's what instigated our calendar for this year. So seeing some of that user-generated content that came through, we created the photo competition where we had people send in their photos. There, of course, were some limitations on what could be supplied. And then, you know, the top 12 would receive a place in the Beretta Australia calendar, and then obviously the winner would get the cover image. And we had such great feedback from that and so many entries. And, of course, we can then use those photos for content. We've actually stayed in touch with some of the people that sent those photos in, and we're going to do it again this year, but probably do it a little bit bigger, start a little bit earlier, and get that underway again, because it creates content. Everyone loved the calendar, and then our socials and our Instagram get
and I think for people sending stuff in too, it's always just a nice little thing to, you know, you get a post popped up of like tagged in Beretta Australia. Oh, that's my photo. Like you scroll through the feed and it's like that's awesome to see my stuff up there.
Yeah, I think the guy that won bought a few calendars online as well. I think it was like a stack that went out, and I'm like, wait, we would have given them to him, but no, he jumped on and bought them. He was like, I need these now.
Quite a few people did buy their own calendars, and I was like, I'm more than happy to send you some free ones.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they're rare as hen's teeth now. I don't know if we have any.
No, they
left.
all went.
It's a fantastic deployment of that user-generated, but that's like the next level rather than just getting the photo and sharing it, which is great deployment. Being able to actually sort of put that together and put it out there, that's fantastic creativity. I love it. And do you do much? I mean, so a number of the brands you work with are international brands and are from overseas, and they no doubt produce their own content which you can push through. Do you do much of your own content generation locally, or do you leverage a lot of the stuff that's already done?
A bit of both, especially depending on the brand. We like to generate our own content here. Some of our brands like Ticker and Sarko, a lot of their content is in the lovely snowy fields, and it really doesn't fit with our market.
Because they're from Finland, for those who don't know that.
Yes, they are from Finland. It gets nice and cold over there and snows a fair bit, but it doesn't sit well with our market when it comes over here, and they're like, well, I want to see the red dirt. I want to see our environment. So we do try and do that. Obviously, COVID put a big dampener on that.
Of course.
And you don't realise the impact that has in getting back into it. We launched a lot of products on supplied content, and we're now just getting back into making our own videos and actually being able to go on location and do photo shoots, which I think Elise mentioned before, created some great content that we haven't shared yet, but will be coming shortly.
Of course. It always takes time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, I should mention that we have a very small but mighty Beretta tribe of our own influencers.
Yes.
Okay.
So they get out there and they work hard, making a lot of content here and there, and it's time consuming for them, because they obviously are juggling family life, sort of, working with their real jobs.
But I have to say, we did such a good job of picking the Australian influencers that we've now had 2 picked up by the actual parent company.
Oh, wow.
So, one of the influencers we had has been picked up as the Benelli influencer. We've had another one that works with Sarko Ammo. So, the work we do in finding them, I'm going to say, is such great work that the actual brands are going, you know what, they've done this person's great, let's take them global.
I want to take a slice of that.
Yeah, so, our Australian influencers are really starting to perform well globally.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Amazing. What sort of requirements, or what do you look for when you're looking for someone to represent your brand on socials?
It does depend on the brand.
Okay, yep.
But, Elise and probably will talk to this a little bit more, but, we need to see them being active, and there is a certain style of image that we like to see them do. There's a lot of people out there, and whilst we're not against it, but we'll post shots of them with their kill and it doesn't sit well with the brands. So we really have to be careful around what they're posting.
Sure.
And we've had some people that would love to be influencers, but their social channels are a little bit too far down that avenue for what we need.
Yes.
But Elise can probably talk to, I guess, some of the key components we look at when we're looking for an influencer.
Yeah. So number 1, no buying your followers, because we all know that's cheating.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And, they don't have to have micro influencers, I really feel is a good space at the moment.
Yep.
And, obviously in Australia, you're not going to get perhaps an influencer that has millions of followers
in this industry, for sure.
Yeah, you can try and find them, but I don't know if they exist.
No.
And it's not even really about the following; it's the engagement. Just basically the respect for the brand, knowing you can trust them to represent the brand as well as they can, and that's sort of coming back to what Sammy's saying. But also, having said that, there's not an extreme amount of limitations on them because they have their followers for a certain reason.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear.
Yep.
Yeah, and people follow them for that reason. And if we say, you can't do this and you can't do that, then what's the point, sort of thing?
I never understood those companies that pick up an influencer and say, right, you have to do it this way, or telling someone you've got to show our product in this way, that way, this way. You're like, the reason you're interested in them is because they've built such a following.
Yeah.
You just want to partner with them and let them do their thing with your product or whatever it is.
It's their personality that really comes through with the influencing. I think one random post that one of our influencers did was a dirty hand with a bullet in it. And I think that just went wild.
Oh, it's amazing.
And you just go, he didn't even think anything of it. He was as amazed as we were. But it's just, that's his personality. That's who he is. And that's what they like to see.
Yeah.
So, it works that way if we let them stay true to who they are.
Give them their room. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, you get so much more creativity from rather than just having one person and telling everyone to do it the same way.
Yep.
If you have 10 different people,
Yep.
well, everyone's got just their little different bits and pieces they do different. That you get stuff that you go, I never thought of that. That's brilliant.
Yep.
And
but also we have we've got some people that specialize in product photography, which is a challenge.
Yep.
I find anyone can do product photography better than I can. Some people are talking about their shooting journey, just saying I'm sort of new to this and I'm not sure where to start. So just sort of going through that journey of the different shotguns for clay target shooting. Some people are more well established. Others have private properties or their own properties that they can hunt at. Yeah. Some guys go hunting and then shoot clays all weekend with their sort of group. It's all quite like it's a diverse group, but the whole tribe collectively is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think, also events and the like, and probably top of mind because I just came back from the IPSC in Darwin. Yep. The work we're doing, and when I said Beretta can stand on its own, I had a little 12-year-old boy come up to me. His name was Sam. He's in the pistol shooting comp. His dad's in it. He's like, I'm going to buy a Beretta. And I'm like, okay. He's like, no, when I can, I'm going to buy a Beretta. And his dad doesn't shoot a Beretta.
Yep.
But he was all over. I mean, we gave him a bracelet. We gave him a key ring. He actually came out onto one of the ranges with us and trialed the Beretta, and you could not get the grin off this kid's face.
That's fantastic.
But I mean, here's this, I guess, next generation coming out that some of the brand names speak for themselves. And here's this 12-year-old going, I will get my pocket money and I will buy a Beretta when I turn 16.
Yep.
So it's, look, for all the quirks that we have in the industry, trying to get our name out there and do that advertising, whatever we're doing is working, and it's great to see, the kids opposing what their father wants and saying, no, I want a Beretta. Yeah. So,
I was going to actually ask you about that, and events is a really good one, but seeing like brands like that where you're building a brand, you're building a long-term brand, you're not necessarily looking for put this promotion out about Beretta to sell 10 things tomorrow.
No.
How do you gauge that it's working? Is it stories like that? Is there data? Is it just trending of sales? Was it all these data points?
I think it's all of that combined. Yep. It's the word of mouth. So, in the industry, people know Beretta. But for me, it's when you do get these little moments where this boy's family weren't keen Beretta shooters, but he's out there in the industry and he's gone, well, no, I hear things about Beretta. I like Beretta. So it's capturing that. And, it's never a quick purchase.
Yes.
The purchases take time. It's, I could show you a Beretta today, beautiful magazine ad, and you might buy that gun in 5 years.
Yes.
So it's not a quick process. It's really just keeping it out there, keeping the loyalty up, ensuring that the name and the brand stays out there and keeps its reputation. Are some of the big things.
Absolutely. Well, I believe we were going to go for 15 minutes and we've just kept talking. So we shall let everyone go.
Yes.
One last quick question for you. Is TikTok on your radar at all for what you guys are doing?
I would love to see Elise on TikTok.
I mean, we all would.
No one wants to see that.
I think there's definitely a market for it.
Yes.
But when I say yes for TikTok, I don't perceive us putting brands like Beretta on TikTok.
Yep.
It would be possibly, Burris, Victrix, maybe some Stoger.
Breaking it down to the individual brands.
Yeah, breaking it down to the individual brands that I think would relate better to that avenue.
Okay.
And I also think I quite like Instagram Reels, which we're sort of just getting into. And, Instagram and TikTok, they're not friends.
No.
They're not friends at all.
Not.
So I don't know. And Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same guy, right? Yep. So you've got to keep
we do tread lightly. We try not to get any black crosses against us on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It is true. Yeah. But I mean, having said that, that's how some information came to me about Burris, and it was you on TikTok. And it was someone in my family, and they were like, check this out. And I was like, wait, who is that? Because I'm not on TikTok that often, but other people in the house are, and that's how it was sort of brought to my attention. I was like, this is interesting. And I have sort of looked through, and I have found people, like a lot of people do search for it. But I think just the reels is for me at the moment.
Okay. Stay tuned.
Just keeping it reels.
Oh, look at that.
Well done. On that wonderful note, we shall finish. Thank you so much for your time, ladies.
You're welcome.
It's wonderful to talk, and we wish you all the best.
Great. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us.
All right.